Love the
What are you going to do, Martin?
No, Martin.
No! There you go!
No!
That's why he makes the big bucks, mother.
I legit just retched. Legit just retched. I almost lost it.
You got to find a
Stop it. Get rid of it, Jamie. Please, stop it.
On your
Jamie,
own, find a face smothering.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Jamie.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's been a few days since you've heard from me, and what better way to break the silence than with my full breakdown of JRE 2093 with the Sober October crew. I took my time with this one because I really wanted to do it justice, and what I found was 3 guys who have completely lost touch with their audience and themselves. And at the front of the pack is Rogan himself, who is basically holding Tom and Bert's hand and walking them into a burning building. So I'm going to deal with them one by one to give you the full picture as to exactly what's going on, and I'll make some brief comments about Ari Shaffir along the way as well. But just quickly, I'm sure you've already heard, Joe Rogan has signed a new multi-year $250 million deal with Spotify. Apparently, JRE will soon be available on all big podcasting platforms and return to YouTube as well, ending Spotify's exclusivity with the little guy. So instead of breaking down those details in this video, I'll be doing a separate dedicated video explaining all of those details because the nature of this deal just confirms everything I've been saying for months. So make sure you're subscribed, otherwise you might miss out on that video as well as all of my other regular uploads. Now, in my previous video regarding Brendan Schaub's retirement from touring his clown show, I mentioned that there would be a crossover between that video and this one. What I meant by that is, Rogan has a tendency to offer advice to his buddies without fully understanding how powerful his words of encouragement are, and in turn, causing an irreparable amount of damage to their lives. We've seen what it did to Brendan. He went all in on podcasting and stand-up comedy after Rogan convinced him to quit fighting 10 years ago, and now he's pulling back his stand-up comedy commitments, and his main podcast, The Fighter and the Kid, is struggling to get over 50 to 60k views per episode. In fact, I just noticed that he's now doing his podcast with Brian Callen as a live stream, similar to The Schaub Show and The Golden Hour, because he's obviously not traveling as much and he can put more time into podcasting. And Brendan is probably the most extreme example of the Rogan effect, which is something I've spoken about at length. But as for Tom and Bert, in this episode of JRE, David Goggins came up in conversation, and Bert mentioned that he knows Goggins reads his comments and uses them for motivation. And that was a common theme in this episode, because Bert brought up reading comments several times throughout the 3.5-hour conversation, so it's obviously something that's been on his mind lately.
Can I tell you the most human thing about him is that he reads negative comments. Like when you see that he
records them,
he gets upset about them.
He listens to them when he runs.
Wow, but like that's where I connect with the guy. Where I go, who would ever hate on David Goggins? Like that guy's nothing but inspiration.
You gotta let that go. There's people that are gonna hate on every thing that has ever existed, and it's not an honest perspective. It's flavored by their own inadequacies.
Got you.
A big part of it is flavored by their own disastrous life.
So that was just a short mention of not reading comments. Rogan gave his usual boomer advice not to read comments, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. I mean, some people hate rich, famous, and successful people just because they've had bad luck or haven't been able to live the life they've always wanted to. But what I noticed with Rogan is that he takes it a step further. Going back to the Bobby Lee episode recently, he mentioned that people who attack him on social media are mentally ill and need help.
And it's like, when I read bad comments now on, because I get some because I've risen, right? I just take that into the thing that it's like, it's attention, right? It's not personal.
You know what I would tell you to do?
What?
Don't read them.
Yeah, I haven't.
Don't read anything.
Yeah.
You
don't read?
No.
Yeah.
I don't read articles about me. I don't read.
But if you read it, would it hurt your feelings?
It could.
People also don't realize that I'm a sensitive guy.
We're all sensitive.
Right?
They're sensitive too. That's why they're lashing out. The reason why they're writing mean is because they know what hurts them. A kind person, a happy person, wouldn't be writing things about you. They're doing it because it's that old expression, hurt people hurt people. A lot of the people that are doing this on social media all day long, we know them. They're mentally ill people. I don't need to name any names, but I can. But there's some of our severely mentally ill people that are just liars. They're insane. They're full of shit. They're on medication and in therapy, and they're just lashing out at other people's behavior. To be a good person also means to be nice to everybody. It doesn't, just because someone has a differing view on something, you can't demonize them and turn them into a non-human.
Did you notice just at the end there how he said we shouldn't demonize people with a difference of opinion and turn them into a non-human? Well, that's exactly what he's doing, isn't it? He's saying people who aren't happy and nice to everyone are mentally ill, sick people. I don't know, man. That sounds like he's trying to dehumanize his critics. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of crazy people on the internet who get off over saying mean things and trolling public figures, etc. But what Rogan's trying to do is lump all of his haters into the same pile so that he can discredit their criticisms by going at their character and intentions rather than the actual criticism itself. This is a classic parasocial elitist move. And if you don't know what I mean, stick around because I'm going to explain it in detail. So then, going back to episode 2093. Like I said, at first I didn't think much of his views on not reading comments. I mean, he talks about it in every second or third episode these days. But then Bert mentioned how happy he is for Ari because he was able to turn his career around after everyone thought he was on his way out. I've discussed this in a previous video and most of you already know what happened, so here's the short version. When Kobe Bryant passed away, Ari posted a tweet and made a video basically celebrating his death and how it didn't come soon enough. The backlash was wild. The New York Comedy Club cancelled his show after receiving threats about hosting him. A representative for the club said we're no longer working with him anymore, and his agent dropped him as a client. So, Bert was saying how proud he is for Ari for being able to turn it all around after people had written him off, which triggered one of Rogan's "why can't everybody all get along" rants.
I was thinking, I'm a little buzzed, so I'll share it, but I was thinking, how cool is it that you've had moments in your career where everyone's like, write that guy off, and you're killing it. And you're killing it. I love that there's forgiveness in this world, and I love that I love that he's killing it right now.
People that don't want to forgive people that are actively trying to be better people are bad people.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
There's a negative aspect to this non-forgiveness mindset that is inescapable. It's not good for the person that perpetuates it. It's definitely not good for the people that receive it. If you're not willing to say, I get it, we're all human, and I believe your intention, give me a hug, let's work this out. If you can't do that, you're the problem. The problem is an unforgiving mindset, like the least charitable perspective on every person you run into because you think that somehow or another that elevates you, but it doesn't.
See, I actually agree with what Rogan's saying for the most part, but where I disagree with him is when he overly simplifies these sometimes complex situations with overly emotional and sentimental one-liners like, if you can't forgive someone, then you're the problem. And then Bert repeats it after him as if it's gospel, but what he's basically saying is, if you don't like what Ari said about Kobe, and if you don't like that Ari spikes people's drinks without telling them, and whatever else you don't like about Ari, I mean, take your pick, beating up little Asian boys is another one. So because he's apologized and sought to make amends with the people he's hurt, if you don't like him again, then you're the problem. Bro, what? That's some whacked out logic, because for me personally, I don't mind Ari, I don't think he's that funny, but I think he's generally a harmless person who just does weird stuff to get attention and stay relevant. But I love that he's pulled back on the exposure, he cancelled his podcast, and he just does stand-up and JRE, Kill Tony, etc., so he's not suffering from overexposure. But if you choose to hold those things against him, that doesn't make you the problem. That doesn't make you a bad person. Rogan can't force everyone to like his buddies just because they said sorry and lost a bunch of money from cancelled shows. And it didn't stop there. After the third hour, things got even more interesting. Tom was retelling the story about the time he went on a radio show years ago and the hosts were arrogant and didn't want to engage in conversation. They just wanted him to talk and carry the show himself.
I just remember this, the best radio one was when I went in. Do you ever have somebody and they go, sit here, and they're doing a thing?
You're just
like,
waiting?
We're coming. Yeah, you're just waiting. Then the guy could not be less interested. He's like reading the paper.
What radio station? Tell it.
So he's it's in the Northeast.
A long time ago.
But he goes, all right, we'll be back from the break in 30 seconds. And I go, okay. He goes, then just take over. And I go, what? He goes, just take over. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, it's just your show. You have shows this weekend. Just do whatever you want to do. And I go, I'm not going to do anything. And then it's like 10 seconds. He's like, what do you mean you're not going to do anything? I go, I'm not going to do anything. I go, if you don't ask me something, I'm not going to say a single word.
And so Bert relished the opportunity to point out how bad his younger big brother is because apparently Tom just doesn't care. He lives in the moment, says what he wants, and does what he wants without any regard for the consequences.
I look up to you because it's the coolest thing about you is that you really don't give a f.
That is nice.
It's so cool to not give a f. When you give a f, it's a little sad sometimes. You know?
I think I give a f about certain
You
things.
don't give a f.
Right, but what you don't give a f
Tom,
about,
I don't know if
really
you read
pretend
your
to give a
comments.
f
You
about.
do not give a f.
You have the perfect amount of.
Yeah.
I think it's like a balance.
No.
It's the right balance.
No, it's detrimental.
To what?
To him.
How so?
Why?
If I read his comments, I'd be like, start giving a f.
Yeah, but who's writing those comments? You can't read comments.
I do.
And right on cue, Rogan gets triggered and pipes up about how stupid and irrelevant commenters' opinions are.
The people that are writing them, you're getting a disproportionate amount of failures. If you're trying to get like a control study of the population, general population, if you're doing a pharmaceutical study, you have a bunch of old people, a bunch of young people, different walks of life. You're going to do it right. You do it with a bunch of biological variability. The variability of people that are wanting to comment negatively online is like, you can find those people. They don't have their shit together.
That's
They're
the
a
people with
mess.
dizziness.
Some of them are kids.
Just ignore them.
It's a nonsense way to communicate.
It is
You
nonsense.
You
It's a
don't know
waste
who
of
they
energy.
are. You don't know what their background is. You don't know whether their opinion is valid. You're accepting negativity, and human beings have a natural propensity to look towards negative things because your brain is programmed to look for intruders and dangerous things.
Yeah.
Okay, I said this before and I'll say it again. Rogan isn't wrong. But here's the thing. What Bert was trying to say about Tom's comments was actually a legitimate point, so let me show you what I mean. If you go to the most recent episode of Two Bears, One Cave titled, Does Cat Williams Hate Us?, these are the top comments. Not saying I agree nor disagree, but sorry to break it to you, you are undoubtedly, unequivocally, and without question, one of Cat Williams' Rogan's 6. That's actually the top comment with over 2,500 likes. I really love how Bert allows Tom to listen. Props to Bart for actually letting Tom talk about Japan for 2 minutes. Good on Bert for being self-aware enough to know Cat was talking about him. For the other paws, like me who have jobs to do instead of listening to all of this, this is the part you're looking for. Timestamp 3653. And yeah, that little snip is what they named the episode for because the rest of it is about fancy dining in Japan and Bert not being an alco. Bert name-dropping Shane Gillis just to compliment himself through Shane is wild. Shane texted me I'm one of the top 5 hangs of all time. Now, some of these are just funny comments, but they are overwhelmingly negative. The whole comment section on their podcasts and social media are always taking shots at them. Now, that is not normal, and they should not be ignoring it. See, there's a difference between people trolling in the comments and legitimate criticism. That's what Rogan's failing to understand. I actually have a larger point that I want to make about all of this, but to get there, let's hear about Bert's experience dealing with all the negative comments surrounding his Machine movie last year.
When the movie came out, I was getting a lot of negative shit. And I texted Tommy. I was like, can you just take a look at it and see if it's real? You know, because I can't look at it. It f***s me up. So I just stopped looking at it. I hired someone to do it for me. But I don't
Someone
trust
just
them. I don't
reads them
trust
to
them.
you?
No. Just
You're an
to
hat.
monitor them. And then Tommy read them and he was like, that's actually kind of sweet. You're like, it's not that bad. And I was like, oh, for real? And he was like, yeah, I love that.
We were talking in the green room the other night. I was talking about this person who wrote this. They were talking about all-time great guitarist, and they said Hendrix was mostly noise.
Yeah.
And like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard
It's
anybody
trying to
say.
be abrasive. That's like, no, you like him, you just don't like him as much as everyone else does.
No, it's just it's a contrarian perspective.
Do you think it's fun sometimes just to provoke?
Yeah, it is.
Not me. Not
Yeah.
me. You, definitely you are.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, you're number one at that.
It's
You
fun.
love it.
Just to provoke. Just like,
Yeah.
let me get a rise out of you.
Yeah, it's a fun way to initiate a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, not me. I cruise by. Try to keep my head down.
Wow, imagine a bunch of comedians complaining about people with contrarian opinions. Seriously, the stuff these guys come up with. At least Ari owned up to it after Tom pointed out the hypocrisy of whinging about people stirring the pot. Half these guys have built a career off of doing exactly that. It was only recently where Rogan found himself going up against the establishment narrative during the pandemic and carving himself out a bigger audience based on his pushback against that mainstream narrative. But according to Rogan, that's okay, that's fine, that's what he calls wholesome debate. But if you think Jimi Hendrix made more noise than music, yeah, nah, that's a crazy opinion. Brilliant double standard there, bro. Truly one of your best, and I'm a massive Hendrix fan. And speaking of double standards, let's turn our attention back to Tom. Remember how Bert was bricking up over Tom's bad boy attitude and not caring about anything? This is Tom Segura's big lie. And I've been rooting for him lately, but he keeps perpetuating this fake persona. And as long as he keeps it up, I'm just going to keep calling him out. Who is he kidding? Tom's got a whole team with clipboards walking around. Everything he does is carefully curated and scripted for maximum effect and exposure.
Because, like, I go to Tom's. Have you been to Tom's? Segura's?
Oh, yeah.
It's like they have a real production staff.
Yeah.
There's all these people running around with clipboards, and it's like...
I went to Bert's house the other day. He had 8 people behind computers just typing away. What the f they're doing? Emailing what?
Social media going crazy, promoting arena shows. Everyone's going nuts.
Me, no.
I don't want that in my life.
Does Tom really expect us to believe that he's an off-the-cuff warrior? Even his friends are calling him out for being overly produced. We all know about his deleted tweets from October of last year after his airport meltdown. We all saw him go full Mitch McConnell when he was asked about his car collection recently. And how can we forget his ongoing obsession with bullying his so-called poor fans and pretending it's just a bit? You see, with Tom, everything's a bit until he decides it's not and he gets serious or angry. Nobody is more aware of his public image than Tom Segura. He literally has staff monitoring all of his comments to gauge public opinion, and why wouldn't he? It's one of the best free data sources to get a feel for how people are perceiving him. That's why he's made such a massive attempt to clean up his image recently. He's got a streaming show coming out this year that he's yet to announce. Netflix is eating up his specials, and he makes big money from touring internationally. Tom's as curated as any other Hollywood celebrity. But the guy's a full-blown psycho. Just look into his eyes, they never lie. So when he has a meltdown over poor people wasting his time, his PR team starts scrambling to fix it, and that's how we get humble Tom on JRE and in various other interviews. You guys cannot tell me you haven't noticed he's toned it down recently, even on YMH and Two Bears. So for him to feed the whole bad boy comedian narrative that Bert's trying to push, yeah, I don't believe it for a second. Out of all the Rogan comedy brats, he's the most engaged with his public image. He cares the most. And then there's Bert. Oh man, why do I do this to myself? Let's back up a little bit because I want to pick up on something I said at the beginning of this video where Rogan's holding their hands and walking them into a burning building. And it's especially damaging for Bert due to his low IQ and tendency to blindly follow anything Rogan tells him to do, much like Brendan Schaub. But what I can't seem to get my head around is how Bert so clearly annoys Rogan, yet he still continues to tell Bert how cool and funny he is. And I don't mean just two friends riffing. I mean Bert full-on gets under Rogan's skin. It's as obvious as daylight, and even Rogan says it himself.
The only thing I think that would be beneficial is be great if I could do my podcast with AI and then type in, yo, can you take all the annoying parts of me out of there? Like when I talk over you or I talk like I would love.
How about just not talk over people?
Hey,
you
Joe,
don't need a
tough.
robot.
It's kind of tough.
You don't need a robot to do it.
I told you I bought your album. I bought it in '93.
Tape.
The year before in '92 was a deep cover. I bought that, and you're still Snoop. It's crazy. It's 30 whatever years.
Yeah, he's got the best longevity of anybody.
And,
And so
like,
I go,
okay.
I just admire that. You know, he says everything cool.
Yeah.
Wait, try to guess what I'm
Shut the
thinking.
f*** up, Bert.
Hey,
Jesus
okay.
Christ,
No,
Bert.
no, I know
Let him talk.
He goes, let me get a flick with you.
On the one hand, I get it. Bert and Joe have been friends for a long time, they have a history there, and Bert owes a lot to Joe. Nobody's denying that, but on the other side of the same coin, Rogan can clearly see that Bert has some serious anxiety issues, maybe even borderline personality disorder, narcissism, who knows what else. I'm not a health professional, I'm not trying to diagnose Bert or anything like that, I'm just going off what we see of him publicly and his own comments.
Nobody cries more on podcasts.
Not me
than Bert.
anymore.
He cries a lot.
I cry a lot. I regret a couple cries.
No.
Schultz's, I regret that one.
You cried on Schultz's podcast?
Of course.
What'd you cry about?
Nothing.
Bambi.
He brought out a clown and some balloons, and it me up.
Clown and balloons made you cry.
Oh,
No,
I think I saw that.
no. It gave me a panic attack.
What?
And then I don't like clowns. You were shaking. Now I'm just looking over my shoulder.
Hold the
Yeah.
on.
He's like, for real?
Schultz gave me the opportunity to not. Don't play it.
Wait a
Don't play
minute,
it.
wait a
Don't
minute,
play
wait
it.
a
Don't play
minute.
it. There's no reason to play it.
Okay. No, you have a real issue with clowns?
And then you became one?
Yeah, technically, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Because Aubrey Marcus
Right.
is, I think his dad ran stores
Right.
and says, "Oh, what the
Listen, you got a great friend in Tom Segura. I just want to let you know. You have a great friend.
Hey, let's switch seats. Up. Get in here. Get in here. Scoot over. Slide over.
In Tom
Slide
Segura,
over.
who loves you so much and is willing to... This guy, I've never seen Bert look this uncomfortable. When I called up Tom, I said, Tom, what would be something fun we could do with Bert? He goes, oh, he hates balloons and he hates clowns.
You can't smell that. You can't smell that.
Smell what?
The balloons. You can't smell that.
What?
You can't smell that. I'm being dead serious.
How do you smell a balloon?
They're gonna start popping, dude. They're gonna start popping. I'm gonna have to leave. I'm being dead serious. I'm gonna have to leave.
Hey, don't stand at that door. Stand at that door.
Okay.
They're gonna start popping.
Listen, well, can we leave one balloon?
Give me the beer. Give me the beer. Give me the beer. No.
You gotta drink more beer. Let's chug.
Yeah, we got to chug. Chug this, get him another.
They're really gonna pop. They really are because they're really lights. They're like,
No, those aren't even hot lights.
yeah.
What's going to happen if they pop, dude?
I'm
It's
gonna
just going to make a noise.
Oh, dude, what is that? That little screech. Okay, it smells so much better.
I'm being serious. You didn't smell that?
What did it
Nobody
smell like?
smells anything.
What did it smell like?
Are you being serious right now?
Yes, I'm being
I'm like
serious.
shaking.
Why are you
I'm like
crying?
shaking.
You have tears in your eyes.
Here you go, man.
Let's just drink, bro.
You can have this one too if you need.
This will calm your nerves. Here, I'll drink with you. I'll take yours, Akash. Here, cheers. The clown has been removed from the room.
Ooh.
Let's have a cheers.
Real.
Okay. Hold on, Bert.
Ooh, I'm shaking. I'm like shaking.
Hold your hand out. Hold your hand
okay.
out.
Fucking, I know if
His
I'm
back
waiting.
is
I know
sweating,
they're in here. Like I know that it can happen again.
That was Dove.
Okay. I don't give a who it was. I don't know how.
So you have a fear of clowns?
Clowns and balloons.
Hey, why balloons?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. Hey, just do me a favor. For real, promise me he's not coming back.
He's not coming back.
He's not
coming
He won't come
I
back.
cannot
I swear
relax.
to God,
I
he's not
can't
coming
relax.
back in.
He's not
I swear
coming
to God,
back.
he's not coming.
I'm sweating.
He's not.
And why don't you like clowns?
Yeah, can you just
Can't trust him.
Yeah.
Okay, any of you watching this right now who knows someone personally who suffers from serious anxiety will recognize that immediately, and I'm one of those people. Watching that honestly brings up bad memories where everyone thinks people with serious anxiety issues are funny. I mean, Bert straight up just had a panic attack right there. He wasn't acting. Bert's a terrible actor. And Tom and Schultz and everyone else who was involved with that are complete psychos if they think that it's funny to bully someone with anxiety just for the views. Now, anxiety isn't the end of the world. Bert's obviously still functional, perhaps thanks to his heavy drinking. He's quite open about his difficulties traveling in planes, that's why he prefers to tour with all of his buses. But Rogan is so completely removed from ordinary society at this point that he interprets everything through his rose-colored sunglasses. It's like a grandfather with his granddaughter sitting on his lap, and she's saying how she keeps getting bullied at school, and her grandfather is blown away why anyone would be mean to his little princess, and tells her she's amazing and beautiful and all of that warm and fuzzy stuff. He tells her, anyone who doesn't think you're amazing is just crazy. It's a them problem. Meanwhile, the little girl is an absolute menace at school, dobbing in her classmates, talking over everyone, and just being an antisocial brat. When Rogan gives Tom and Bert advice, telling him not to read comments, to ignore all the criticism and just keep moving, what he fails to understand is that there is a ton of legitimate feedback in their comment sections that they should be taking on board. And when someone like Rogan, who is the last person to be able to understand what it's like being a Tom and Bert fan on social media or their podcast, when he inflates their egos and gasses them up like that, all it does is give them an artificial sense of self-worth that fuels their continued bratty behavior, further alienating them from their fans, the very people who gave them their extraordinary wealth and fame. I mean, if Rogan thinks we're cool, then we must be doing something right. Meanwhile, Rogan's sitting in his ivory tower with absolutely no clue as to what the actual criticism is. I was chatting to one of my buddies about this, and he mentioned this thing called survivorship bias. I'll pull up a little image for you guys. And it's how Rogan's individual and very rare success has given him the false impression that anyone can replicate his success. But the reason why they don't is because they're jealous haters or they're lazy no-hopers. I think Tom has that mindset too. Meanwhile, he has the loudest voice because he's the 0.1% of podcasting comedians who made it to the top. We don't hear from the 99.9% who failed, well, because they failed, they're gone. And that's why he speaks in these oversimplified one-liners, like when he says, if you can't forgive someone, then you're the problem. So then all of this leads to his buddies like Brendan Schaub, Tom and Bert thinking that they deserve all of the fame and fortune, and then getting confused when they get all this hate and pushback from their fans. And instead of taking the feedback on board and snapping back to reality, they continue on that trajectory completely unaware that they're becoming delusional losers. It's not normal to have a comment section that is overwhelmingly negative. That means there's something wrong. Sure, there might be a few crackpots in there, but for Rogan to dismiss all of the hate and all of the criticism as being hurt people, or they're mentally ill and need to take meds, or they're just trying to get a reaction out of you, that's just full-blown elitism. It's Hollywood all over again. Honestly, it sounds to me like some of Rogan's buddies are the ones who need to be taking the meds and not us. There's this sense that they are the culture, and that gives them the moral authority to say and do whatever they want. And even when it's not funny or just straight up boring and out of date, we're supposed to eat it up and beg for more because they know what's good for us, and we are too stupid to know it for ourselves. Deep down within Rogan's inner circle, there's this strong sense of entitlement that permeates everything they do. They think that everything they do is significant simply by virtue of its existence. And this is the major source of the conflict with their peers and their audience. It's this parasocial elitism where they do the talking, we do the listening, and if we disagree, that automatically makes us haters. But when the shoe's on the other foot, they kick and scream about free speech. Now, I've been dying to bring this next thing up with you guys, but I've been waiting for the right moment, so here we go. First of all, I'll put my hand up and admit that I've said this before many times, but it's time to correct myself. It's the whole theory that JRE is just Joe and Jamie jamming in the studio, and it's a small, lean operation without all the producers with clipboards and minions sitting behind computers doing social media. Rogan's podcast studio is a fortress. He's got high-end former military guys doing security. He's very tight-lipped about all of this, but we saw a glimpse of it when Elon brought his Cybertruck into Joe's studio and they went down to shoot it with a bow and arrow. He's also got this booking guy who helps out with contacting and fielding potential guests for the podcast. And perhaps the least talked about group are all of the editors that work around the clock to get his podcasts out. See, I don't think Jamie's the one who actually edits the full podcast episodes. We've heard Joe talk about this where he'll say something like, "Don't worry, we can edit that out," or something to that effect.
I jerk off a lot.
How much?
Come
How
sink
often are
or
you jerking off?
Once every
Not
day?
as much now. Leanne's on testosterone too. Not supposed to
Whoa.
share that.
You did.
she won't let you
She
jerk
just
off?
went. She just went secret time. She just went to
Secret time for 11 million people. Good luck.
Dude, careful.
Good call. Let's not share secret.
You want to edit that out?
Nope. Nope.
Wow.
No, because I like what Ways to Well's doing. I do.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And they got her on testosterone and progesterone, and I'll share that because I think
she's ready to fuck, buddy.
So I think there's definitely a team of editors out there who only work on JRE content working around the clock to get these massive several-hour episodes out there, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It just comes with the territory, right? But when you also throw in the fact that Joe has a company called Superbam managing all of his content, making copyright claims, trying to milk every single cent out of the podcast as possible, all of a sudden, when you put all of this together, Rogan sounds like a bit of a hypocrite. I actually think that Rogan has more staff than Tom and Bert do. He just uses them for different things compared to them, and they sit more behind the scenes and they're out of sight to create the impression that it's just him and Jamie. When it comes to the actual content and producing the show, sure, it's just Joe and Jamie, but when you look at his whole operation, yeah, there's a big team behind him to make all of this happen. That way, Joe can sit in the sauna all morning, jump in the ice bath and do some kettlebell swings before jumping in the hot seat, record the show, and then head on over to the comedy mothership every night to hang out in the green room soaking up all of the love from his minions. But let me give you one more quick example of Rogan's blatant hypocrisy before I end this rant. I really enjoyed the first 20 or so minutes of this podcast. They were sitting around reacting to clips that Jamie was pulling up, all sorts of weird and wacky stuff. And all throughout the podcast, Jamie's always pulling stuff up, various clips and articles, etc. I mean, there's literally a meme named after Jamie Pull That Up. And it reminded me of something. When these guys dish out copyright claims and strikes for other people using their content, and they steal other creators' ad revenue for using short clips from their podcasts or taking down videos that are critical of them, they need to stop and look in the mirror. Because a lot of their content is reacting to other people's work. The only difference is when they do it, they justify it because they think they are the culture. But when we do it, apparently we're stealing and leeching off their content. They can't have it both ways. Fair use is fair use, just like free speech is universal, not just for the elite podcast class. Anyway, that's my breakdown of episode 2093 with the Sober October crew. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Big shout out to all my regulars. You guys are the best. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider jumping on board so you get all my uploads right there in your feed. That's it from me. I'll catch you in the next one.
Try to keep my head down.
Read those comments, huh?
Yes, you do. You just said you
No,
did.
no. I read Tommy's comments. I read Tommy's comments.
You don't read yours?
No, I do not.
Ever. Not ever?
Never.
Every now and then.
Never.
Late at night, taking a shit at 3 in the morning.
Never.
Shut
Open
up.
up
Never
that
read
phone.
yours?
I never.
I'm
I
pretty
hired
happy about this
Victoria
post.
so that I
Let
could.
me see if it's positive. Let me see if people have a good
do you
thing
read
to
it all?
say. No.
Well, so wait, why would you believe I didn't?
Because I'm different than you.
How so?
Don't you think?
Nope.
You don't think? You think we're the same?
I think we're so similar.
That's fascinating.